Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going behind the scenes at MillionAir Burbank, Hollywood,
Ooh, exciting.
to see how they're making sustainable luxury a reality, in the world of private aviation.
Yeah, you don't often hear those two words in the same sentence, do you? Luxury and sustainability.
Right. It
Oh.
seems like a bit of a paradox.
It does, but MillionAir Burbank Hollywood is proving that it doesn't have to be.
So our source for this deep dive is an episode of The Bond.
Okay, yeah, I love that show.
Me too. It's a show all about connecting with nature, through hobbies and sustainable living.
Right, very cool.
And this particular episode features Priscilla, the general manager,
Okay,
and Ron, the operations manager at MillionAir Burbank, Hollywood.
awesome.
And they're sharing how their location actually achieved carbon neutrality.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for an industry that's, usually associated with high emissions.
Right. It's not like you can just, switch to electric planes overnight.
Yeah, well, not yet, anyway. But you're right. MillionAir Burbank Hollywood is setting a great example for other FBOs, fixed-base operators,
Okay.
and the aviation industry as a whole.
So let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
How did they actually achieve carbon neutrality? It's not like you can just flip a switch.
You're absolutely right. It was a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
They started by making changes at their terminal, things like eliminating styrofoam and plastic cutlery, switching to paper products and reusable dishware.
So kind of like what we're seeing in a lot of restaurants and businesses these days.
Exactly. It's about making those everyday choices more sustainable. And they also implemented xeriscaping.
Xeriscaping.
Yeah, using drought-tolerant succulents for landscaping to reduce water consumption.
Smart.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like California where water conservation is so important.
Right, exactly. And it goes beyond the terminal. They transition to electric ground equipment.
Like what kind of equipment?
Things like tugs and ground power units are the things that help move planes around and provide power when they're on the ground.
Okay.
And they even electrified their crew car fleet.
Wow. They really thought of everything.
They did. And to account for any remaining emissions, they partnered with 4AR, a sustainability rating program for aviation,
Okay.
to audit their operations and purchase carbon offsets.
The 4AR is kind of like a third-party verifier, making sure they're meeting their goals.
Precisely. It brings a level of transparency and accountability to the process.
That's impressive.
It is.
But what about the fuel itself? That's got to be a major source of emissions, right?
Oh, right. And that's where SAFE comes in.
SAF.
Yeah, sustainable aviation fuel. It's made from sustainable sources like used cooking oil and other waste materials.
Wait, so they're making jet fuel out of old cooking oil?
Yep. Pretty cool, huh?
That's amazing.
And the best part is that ESSA is what we call a drop-in replacement for conventional jet fuel, meaning it can be used in existing aircraft without any modifications.
So no need to redesign airplanes or anything like that.
Exactly. And the impact is significant. SAF can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80% compared to traditional jet fuel.
80%. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So why isn't everyone using SAF already?
Well, there are a few hurdles to overcome.
Okay.
One of the biggest is production capacity. Right now, there just aren't enough facilities producing SAF to meet the demand.
So it's a supply issue.
Exactly. And because of that limited supply, SAF is currently more expensive than traditional jet fuel.
That makes sense. New technology, limited availability, higher costs.
Right. But even with those challenges, MillionAir Burbank Hollywood has been offering SAF to its clients since June 2021.
Wow, that's ahead of the curve. They're not just fueling private jets, though, are they?
No, they're not. They also serve a diverse range of aircraft,
Like what?
including military aircraft, medical flights, experimental aircraft, you name it, even scientific research planes.
That's really interesting. It shows that they're committed to making sustainable aviation accessible across the board, not just for the luxury market.
Absolutely. And it highlights how sustainability can be integrated into all facets of the aviation industry.
Now, I read that they're using something called a book and claim system for SAF.
Oh,
Can you explain what that is?
sure. It's essentially a way for companies to support SAF production, even if it's not physically available at their location.
So they're investing in SAF even if it's not going directly into their planes.
Exactly. It's
Yep.
like pre-ordering a book that hasn't been printed yet. You're supporting the author and helping to make sure the book gets published even though you won't get your copy right away.
I get it. So they're helping to drive demand for SAF, which in turn encourages more production.
Precisely. It's a clever solution to the current supply limitations, and it helps to accelerate the transition to a more sustainable aviation industry.
So MillionAir is taking a multi-pronged approach here. reducing emissions from their own operations, offering SAF to clients, and supporting its production through the book and claim system.
They are, and it's really setting a strong example for the industry as a whole.
It's like they're saying, look, sustainable aviation is possible. It's happening now.
Exactly. And they're showing that it doesn't have to come at the expense of performance or luxury.
It seems like they're really going above and beyond just meeting industry standards.
They are. And their efforts are being recognized. The NBAA, the National Business Aviation Association, is actively promoting sustainability within the industry as well.
So MillionAir isn't alone in this.
Not at all. The NBAA offers accreditation programs for FBOs and flight departments that want to reduce their environmental impact, encouraging things like using LED lighting, recycled carpeting, and of course, SAF.
So it sounds like there's a real movement towards sustainability happening in the aviation industry.
There is. And companies like MillionAir are playing a key role in making that happen.
You know, this reminds me of something we discussed earlier, the Berlin airlift.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, I see a connection in their dedication to innovation and problem solving, in the face of what might seem like insurmountable challenges.
That's a great point. The Berlin airlift was this incredible logistical feat, and MillionAir's sustainability efforts are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in aviation today.
Both are about finding creative solutions to connect people and improve lives.
Yes. They demonstrate that with ingenuity and collaboration, we can overcome obstacles and create a better future.
It's inspiring to see that same spirit of innovation alive and well in the aviation industry today.
Absolutely. And it gives me hope that we can continue to make progress toward a more sustainable future for aviation and the planet as a whole.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. I'm really impressed with MillionAir's comprehensive approach to sustainability.
Me too. They're showing that luxury and responsibility can go hand in hand.
Now let's dive into some of the specifics of their efforts. They mentioned in the bond that their staff is really on board with their sustainability mission.
That's right. They talked about how their employees are proud to work for a company that prioritizes sustainability.
And that it's become part of their company culture.
Exactly. Which is so important for long-term success. It can't just be a top-down initiative. Everyone needs to buy in and feel like they're part of something bigger.
Absolutely. Okay, before we move on, is there anything else from their carbon neutrality efforts that you think our listeners should know about?
Yeah, there's one more detail I think is worth mentioning, their commitment to offering unleaded avgas.
Now, hold on. What's unleaded avgas?
Avgas is the fuel used in piston engine aircraft, and traditionally it's contained lead, which is a harmful pollutant.
Right. Lead is definitely not something you want in the air.
Exactly. So there's been a push to develop unleaded avgas, and MillionAir Burbank Hollywood offers a type called UL94.
So they're not just focused on sustainable jet fuel. They're addressing the impact of piston engine aircraft as well.
They are, and it's a bit more challenging than AF because unleaded avgas requires engine modifications in some cases, and it can't be mixed with leaded avgas.
So it requires separate storage tanks and fueling systems.
Yes, it's a bigger investment for FBOs to offer it.
But it sounds like a crucial step towards reducing the environmental impact of aviation across the board.
It is. MillionAir is taking a truly holistic approach to sustainability.
Well, it's definitely clear that MillionAir Burbank Hollywood is walking the walk when it comes to sustainability.
They are, and their efforts are having a ripple effect throughout the industry.
All right, let's take a quick pause here, and when we come back, we'll explore some of the broader trends in sustainable aviation.
Sounds good. We'll delve into how MillionAir's actions fit into the bigger picture of the industry's movement toward a greener future. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how MillionAir Burbank Hollywood is really leading the way in sustainable aviation.
Yeah, they're definitely setting a high bar, but it also sounds like they're not alone in this effort. What are some of the other trends you're seeing in the industry?
Well, one of the most significant developments is the growing commitment from major airline groups to reduce their environmental impact.
Okay, can you give me some examples?
Sure. Take the International Airlines Group, IAG, for instance. Yeah. They own airlines like British Airways and Aer Lingus.
Yeah.
And they've committed to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
That's a pretty big deal. Are other airlines following suit?
Yes, they are. Airlines for America, A4A, which represents carriers like American Airlines, Delta, FedEx, and United, has set the same target.
Okay.
But with an even more ambitious timeline of 2030.
Wow, 2030, that's just a few years away.
It is. It really shows that the industry is starting to take this seriously. And it's not just about altruism.
Yeah.
Consumers are increasingly demanding sustainable travel options, and investors are looking for companies that are taking environmental responsibility seriously.
So it's good for business and good for the planet.
Exactly. Sustainability is becoming a key factor in the long-term viability of the aviation industry.
This makes MillionAir's early adoption of sustainable practices even more impressive. They were ahead of the curve.
They were. And it's likely given them a competitive edge. They've positioned themselves as leaders in this evolving landscape, anticipating the future of luxury travel.
Speaking of luxury, I've got to say, I was really struck by the level of service MillionAir Burbank Hollywood provides.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It's not just about fueling planes, is it?
You're right. It's more than just a gas station for planes.
Right.
They offer a whole suite of services designed to make the travel experience as smooth and enjoyable as possible.
Yeah, they range everything from hotel bookings and rental cars to catering and limousine service.
It's like a concierge service for the skies. And they do it all while minimizing their environmental impact.
It's clear they've integrated sustainability into every aspect of their operations.
Absolutely. And that attention to detail extends to their staff as well.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, but it's worth revisiting. Their employees seem genuinely invested in the company's sustainability mission.
They do. Priscilla and Ron talked about this in the Bond episode. They mentioned that their employees are proud to work for a company that prioritizes sustainability.
It sounds like it's more than just a job for them. They feel like they're contributing to something meaningful.
Exactly. And that sense of shared purpose is a powerful motivator.
It's a testament to MillionAir Burbank Hollywood's leadership and their ability to create a culture of sustainability.
It really is. And it highlights the importance of engaging employees in sustainability efforts. It can't just be a top-down initiative. It needs to be embraced at all levels of the organization.
This conversation has really shifted my perspective on private aviation. I used to think of it as inherently unsustainable, but MillionAir is proving that it doesn't have to be that way.
I think a lot of people share that initial perception, but MillionAir is challenging those assumptions and showing that luxury and responsibility can coexist.
They're demonstrating that you can have a high-quality travel experience without compromising your commitment to sustainability.
And that's a powerful message. It resonates with consumers who are looking for ways to align their values with their lifestyle choices.
So what does this all mean for the average listener? What can we do to support sustainable aviation?
Well, for starters, we can be more conscious consumers. When we're booking flights, we can choose airlines that are committed to sustainability and look for FBOs like MillionAir that are offering SAF.
So do your research and vote with your wallet.
Exactly. We can also support policies that promote the development and adoption of sustainable aviation technologies. Contact your elected officials, support organizations working on these issues, spread the word on social media.
Every voice makes a difference.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of conversation. Talk to your friends and family about sustainable aviation. The more awareness we raise, the faster we can drive change.
That's such a good point.
Mhm.
Sometimes it feels like these big global issues are beyond our control, but even small actions can contribute to a larger movement.
They really can. And remember, sustainability is a journey, not a destination.
Okay, so far we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from MillionAir's specific actions to broader industry trends and the role of consumers in driving change.
We've also touched on the human element of sustainability, how engaging employees and fostering a culture of responsibility is crucial for success.
But there's still more to unpack.
There is. In the next part, we'll delve into some of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for sustainable aviation.
We'll explore what the future might hold for this industry as it continues to evolve and embrace a greener path. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring MillionAir Burbank Hollywood's impressive commitment to sustainable aviation.
Yeah, it's really remarkable what they've accomplished.
And we've seen how major airlines and industry organizations are also stepping up, to embrace a greener future for aviation.
Right, there's definitely a growing movement in that direction.
But as with any significant shift, there are bound to be challenges along the way.
Absolutely no doubt about it.
So what are some of the hurdles that sustainable aviation still needs to overcome?
Well, one of the biggest is the cost of SAF, as we discussed earlier. It's currently more expensive to produce than traditional jet fuel.
And that higher cost, gets passed along to airlines and ultimately to passengers.
Exactly. So finding ways to scale up SAF production and reduce those costs, that's crucial for widespread adoption.
Right, and that ties into another challenge, the availability of sustainable feedstocks.
Mm,
You need the raw materials to make SAF.
that's right. SAC relies on things like used cooking oil, agricultural waste, even forestry residues.
hmm
Securing a reliable and sustainable supply of these feedstocks, that's essential.
It sounds like a complex puzzle.
It is.
Balancing environmental concerns with economic viability and technological advancements.
You got it.
Yeah.
And it requires collaboration across multiple sectors, from government and industry to research institutions and consumers.
So what are some potential solutions to these challenges?
Well, on the cost front, government incentives and policies that encourage SAF production, those can play a big role.
So things like tax breaks or subsidies.
Exactly, to make SAF more competitive with traditional jet fuel. And on the feedstock side, investing in research and development to explore new sources and improve efficiency. That's key.
I've read about efforts to develop SAF from algae or even captured carbon dioxide. That
Ah,
sounds pretty futuristic.
it does. Those technologies are still in the early stages, but they hold a lot of promise for the future.
It's kind to think about, the potential breakthroughs that might be just around the corner.
It is. And remember, innovation isn't limited to fuel production. There are also advancements happening in aircraft design and operations that can improve efficiency and reduce emissions.
Like lighter weight materials and more aerodynamic designs.
Exactly, and optimizing flight routes and procedures can also make a big difference.
It sounds like a multifaceted approach is key, tackling the problem from every angle.
Absolutely. There's no single solution. It's going to take a combination of technological innovation, policy changes, and those individual actions to truly make sustainable aviation a reality.
This reminds me of something you said earlier about the Berlin airlift. It was a massive logistical challenge that required ingenuity and collaboration on a grand scale.
You're right. And just like the Berlin airlift, sustainable aviation demands a similar spirit of problem solving and collective action.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible and working together to overcome those seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
And ultimately, it's about creating a better future for generations to come.
So what's the one big takeaway you want our listener to leave with today?
I think this sustainable aviation is not a distant dream. It's happening now.
Yeah.
Companies like MillionAir are leading the charge, and the entire industry is starting to embrace a greener path.
But it's going to take all of us.
Yeah.
Consumers, businesses, policymakers working together to truly make it a mainstream reality.
We all have a role to play, whether it's choosing sustainable travel options, supporting policies that promote green technologies, or simply spreading awareness about the importance of this issue.
Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger movement.
Exactly. And together we can create a future where aviation is a force for good, connecting people and places, while minimizing its impact on the planet.
That's an inspiring vision, and it's one that I believe we can achieve if we all work together.
I agree.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. I've learned so much about sustainable aviation and the incredible work that MillionAir Burbank Hollywood is doing.
You too. It's been a great conversation.
And I'm really encouraged by the progress that's being made across the entire industry.
Yeah, it's definitely a hopeful sign for the future.
So for our listeners out there, remember you can find out more about MillionAir Burbank Hollywood and sustainable aviation fuel in the episode description.
As Joe Bond says, until we bond again.